I'm Ruby Jones, and you're listening to 7am. As One Nation's political clout rises, so too does its bank balance, courtesy of the very elites Pauline Hanson often rails against. Now, an investigation by the Brisbane Times and Sydney Morning Herald has detailed some of the places One Nation's cash is coming from exclusive parties hosted at Gina Rinehart's mansion, to movies to merch. But perhaps even more pertinent is the contributions hidden from public view. Today, Sydney Morning Herald investigative reporter Patrick Begley on the sources of One Nation's wealth. It's Tuesday, August 11. So, Patrick, let's begin with these dinner parties that have been hosted at Gina Rinehart's Riverside Mansion in Brisbane. What can you tell me about them?
So these are quite intimate affairs, we're told. Me and my colleague James Hall from the Brisbane Times. They're small dinner parties, and they're at this beautiful Hawthorn mansion that Reinhardt has with wonderful views overlooking the Brisbane River. The admission price is $10,000 a ticket. And what you get is sometimes Reinhardt herself, although at times she's a late withdrawal. But Pauline Hanson is certainly there, and sometimes her star recruit Barnaby Joyce is there as well. And these dinners are really a chance for people to mingle with Hanson. And the guest list, we're told, is often people from industry bodies like the resources sector, wealthy business people, sometimes small business owners, and they're not always political themselves, the guests, but they might just want to contribute via fundraising.
And so it's fair to say then that this $10,000 is less for the champagne and caviar on offer and more for the opportunity to network and perhaps influence.
That's right. I don't think that the people paying $10,000 are doing so for gastronomy reasons. I think it's who's in the room. And for a long time now, Reinhardt has had these dinner parties. They're apparently quite well known in political circles, especially up in Queensland. Whereas once upon a time, they were really about people trying to maybe influence the policy of the Liberal National Party. They're now heavily geared towards One Nation. And our reporting showed that some had even heard gloating from those present that the donations from One Nation were flooding in. And the implication there was you really don't want to be outside of this. You don't want to be failing to contribute to the flood of donations because you want to be in the room, in the know, and in close proximity with people who are, in Reinhardt's case, enormously powerful through her business interests, and in Hanson's case, a real rising political force.
And when you think about it, $10,000 is, comparatively speaking, a bit of a steal compared to some of Gina's past One Nation fundraisers. There's been the luxury cruise ship, her private jet, events on that. So why do you think she's offering this cheaper option?
Yeah, I mean, she's certainly been extraordinarily generous with her support for the party. But you have to remember that these are dinner parties with maybe 10 or so guests, and we're told that there have been, multiple of these type of events. And for a political party, I think you're never saying no to cash. Every little bit counts. And we can see this right across politics, whether it's the Liberal Party, the Labor Party, they do these events. And I think that it's because they can't rely solely on wealthy benefactors, the mega donors. They need to be casting around for a broader pool. As for Reinhardt's motivations, I don't think we know exactly, why not just donate the $120,000 you might earn from that particular event. But I suppose that if you're a billionaire who's got political interests, then it doesn't hurt to be mingling with other people who share similar views and have similar policy ambitions.
And I suppose we're not going to know exactly how much revenue is being raised for One Nation for these kind of events for the time being, right?
Well, for the time being and potentially forever, and that's because of the disclosure thresholds that are currently in place. I think at the moment at the federal level, that's about $17,000. So if you're donating less than that, then essentially it will not appear publicly. That is going to change. Labor has introduced new rules that are set to take effect next year that will drop the disclosure threshold right down to $5,000. But yeah, those people who are donating right now at the dinners, we might never know who they are.
And so this is only one way in which One Nation is raising funds. Tell me a bit more about what we know about where else One Nation's money is coming from, because some of it is pretty unorthodox, right?
That's right. I mean, like all political parties, it gets quite a lot of money from the government, essentially. It gets distributions from electoral commissions for campaign finance, for administrative expenses and so on. And that's definitely significant and can't be ignored. What you see in One Nation, though, is a party that has ventured out into all kinds of different things. It's got this very extensive merch section on its website where you can get everything from mouse pads to beach balls to bottles of gin, which received some negative reviews online. You've got the Make Elbow Go Away baseball caps. So you've got the merch side of things.
We got new grey Pauline Hanson One Nation hats. We got the socks, which are incredibly comfy, and we got these stubby holders.
Then there's also the film production business that they entered into, I think it was last year. On Australia Day, they released the very sarcastically titled A Super Progressive Movie.
Like, we're going every single capital city. We're going around. Pauline's going to be there. We've got the orange carpet. We're going to have a media wall. I'm just really excited about it because...
And this is an animated film directed by the party with the help of a production studio. And apparently it cost about $500,000 to make, it's been reported. And this film, the party has said, is to raise proceeds for the fight against the Albanese government in 2028. So it's a very explicitly political project. Now, what we found in our reporting is that actually raises a bit of a question for the party about whether a super progressive movie and the companies associated with it should actually be declared as associated entities. Now, under electoral law, associated entities are pretty much there so that you don't have these backdoor ways of contributing money to parties. So if you've got a company and it's substantially controlled by a party or it's for the party's benefit in the main, it should be an associated entity. And the Australian Electoral Commission has told us, without going into specifics, that it's examining whether there are associated entities of One Nation that ought to have been declared. We don't know for sure yet.
Still to come, One Nation's dubious track record with finances. Patrick, I imagine it can be pretty difficult trying to piece together all of this because Pauline Hanson and her party, there's a history there of failing to declare financial interests and gifts and spending over the years.
That's right. I don't think any party is without issues when it comes to compliance with electoral regulations. You know, we see pretty commonly politicians having to update their personal interests because of one failure or another. But I do think it is fair to say that One Nation has form when it comes to this.
The Electoral Commission has confirmed it will widen its investigation into One Nation's finances. The ABC's Four Corners claims the party used money from a Victorian property developer to buy a light plane.
We discovered that even just recently, the party in Queensland was forced to update its declarations to show that it had spent an extra $250,000 or so at the last Queensland state election campaign. And that meant that it had effectively failed to declare nearly half its spending in that campaign until it received some correspondence from the Electoral Commission. And on top of that, there's also news that came out recently that in Queensland, the political entity there that One Nation has could even face deregistration for failing to upload some further reports and financial accounts. So There's definitely a lot going on in this space.
One Nation is in danger of being struck off in Queensland over missing financial records.
The film business, I only learned about that earlier this year when I did a company search on Pauline Hanson, and I could see that she had these various directorships and shareholdings in companies, and they did not appear on her register of interests. And that's what every senator or member of parliament is required to upload publicly, all of their various income sources, interests, and so on. Pauline Hanson had just left those off. She did later correct the record. Another thing that we were dealing with here is some of the loans that go on within One Nation. We could see money going from one branch to another. And Pauline Hanson is actually a really significant lender to the party herself. She, since she's become a senator about a decade ago, has lent the party $575,000 or so. And in 2024, 2025, she lent another, or within that, $245,000. And so one angle that James and I were exploring in our reporting is the interest that she was earning on those loans. The party has said it's a commercial rate of interest. Other interest rates charged by the party are around about the 6% mark. And that means that Pauline Hanson in that financial year would have stood to earn, based on those kinds of figures, about $15,000 in interest by lending to her own party. The thing is that there is no additional income source reported by Pauline Hanson. That just doesn't show up. We asked her about it. Unfortunately, she declined to comment.
So as it stands then, how much of One Nation's donations are undisclosed, meaning we don't know who's made them?
So that will depend whether you're looking at the states or federally. But if we just take the federal level, I spoke to Ju Chong Tam, who's a researcher, a law professor at the University of Melbourne, and he had a quick look at One Nation's accounts at the federal level. One Nation in 2024, 2025 took in about $3.3 million at the federal level, and $2 million, more than $2 million of that went undisclosed. So I think that points to, in this case, not necessarily any kind of failing by One Nation, but a failing of our political system. It's really just, I think, a sad reflection of Australian politics that for so long we've let very large amounts of money come in without proper declaration and disclosure. The Labor government is acting on that. We're going to have the new laws in place next year, the lower threshold for disclosure, some better reporting in terms of the time frame. I mean, it's not real time, but it will be closer to real time. As it stands, it's a bit of a guessing game each year. At the federal level, we wait until it's February, I think, and then there's a flood of information that comes out about what's been going on for the last year. Those new laws from Labor will hopefully fix that.
And One Nation isn't the only political party, obviously, that relies on donors and fundraising dinners. We were chatting to Sean Kelly last week about the Prime Minister's $10,000 a head dinner at Point Piper. So is One Nation doing anything different to any of the major political parties?
In one way, no. I mean, hospitality and fundraising go together and have done for a very long time. I think that what's interesting about One Nation, though, is its sheer proximity to such a wealthy and powerful person in the form of Gina Rinehart.
She's a very proud, patriotic Australian, and she sees the same in me. That's why she backs me.
Now, other billionaires have supported Labor, they've supported the Liberals, sometimes both, but I think that when it comes to Rinehart and Hanson, I don't think that we've seen this level of closeness and proximity between such a powerful business figure and someone like Hanson, who is both outside of the political mainstream in one way, but increasingly becoming the centre of attention, and someone who, through her party, I think poses a real threat to the political parties, you know, the main political party systems that we see in place at the moment.
Well, Patrick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Also in the news, tonight's census is being hailed by some as Australia's most progressive, with new questions on sexuality and gender. LGBTIQ+ advocates say the data collected will be transformative in learning more about the queer community and lead to better decisions around things like health and community services. Held every 5 years, the census is compulsory and will see millions of Australians simultaneously complete the same 66-question survey. And 2 airport workers have been temporarily stood down as investigators look into the second near collision between 2 planes at Sydney Airport in 2 weeks. An airline worker was injured when a Jetstar plane was forced to slam on its brakes after coming within metres of striking a Qatar jet. Transport Minister Catherine King says there was unplanned leave due to illness in Sydney over the weekend, but she's confident Air Services Australia is doing everything it can to get on top of the situation. I'm Ruby Jones. This is 7am. Thanks for listening.